Hello, everyone. Yes, it is true. It is true. Rapunzel of Tangled is coming to Disneyland. It's coming to Disneyland in the form of a addition to the Storybook Land Canal Boats. Now, this is directly from the Disney Parks Vlogs, and it says that they're going to have a tower here. You can see here, there's a tower that is going to be added to Storybook Land. This is the reason why Storybook Land has been closed, I believe, for an extended period of time. And this also includes Casey Jr., which is part of this land, and is, as a result, they're doing major additions to Disneyland. And this is very exciting. This is honestly extremely exciting. And as a new addition, because I don't think they tend to make a lot of Storybook Land Canal Boats additions. But let me just go ahead and read. What they say here. So, as shown in newly released concept art, this is the concept art, as you can see here. Newly released concept art. The slender tower is marked by a shingled turret and several windows high above the ground. A meticulously cared for selection of flora completes the scene, creating a lush green oasis among the boulders surrounding Rapunzel's home. And then beyond the tower, there's going to be multiple wanted posters. I assume that this is that the wall is referring to, that dot the stone wall. Even in miniature, they still couldn't get Flynn's nose right. So each poster is going to have a different depiction of Flynn with a different nose, which is kind of funny. The interesting thing, though, I want to share is this little note right down here. Is that a secluded dock with a boat inspired by one from the film will sit at the edge of the water further down from the canal. I think that's what that little element right there is, right there. And it's going to be framed by a trail of twinkling lights winding up a trellis on the bridge, right? So I think these are the lights. Right? From the Rapunzel song. And at last I see the light. Right? The lights that are from the lanterns that kind of extend outwards, right? As the lanterns fly into the air, which is one of the most beautiful scenes in a Disney movie, in my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong. You can let me know if you disagree with me and say, like, oh, Kevin, that's not a beautiful scene at all. But I think it is absolutely a phenomenal scene. It is so beautiful. And I imagine it will look even better at night, right? Because at nighttime, right, those lights are really going to glow. And if they have I don't know if Disney can make this work, but I would love to see if they can make it so it seems as if the lights are kind of floating upwards along that vine there, right? That would truly be pretty wonderful. This is of course if you're gonna have the lights, right, you got to see the songs, right? So during the daytime, it's gonna play "When Will My Life Begin," right? You know, the song from Tangled. And then at night, when dusk falls, it says, I see the light. When at last I see the light. Which is just awesome, right? Because it's two different songs. Normally, you wouldn't expect them to play different songs, right, for this new feature. But they have one where, during the daytime, where Rapunzel's like, when will my life begin? And then at night is at last I see the light, which of course fits very well into a night scene. Let me show you what this looks like currently. So this is from Nick, who apparently this is really interesting that they have Google Street View, Google Street View of this ride, but that's fine. That's really awesome. And this is the current section. So this is that section right here. We can back up a little bit if you want, right? So. Right, this is the second half, right? You've already gone around past this canal, past the Casey Jr. station, past Aladdin, then you come back around Cinderella's castle, and again past the station. And this is this section right here where they have sort of this plant-like area, and it's pretty nice. Right here's the Peter Pan park on the right, and then this is where Rapunzel's tower is going to be, right in this section here. So I guess these plants are going to be removed, and I think that this greenery is also going to be removed because that's going to be where that's where they're going to put the posters right here. I think this is the poster location, right on this wall, and I guess they probably will be large enough where you could probably see Flynn Rider's face, but obviously the nose is going to be a little different. And those are a little different. So that's pretty cool. So it's gonna be a little change. But honestly, I think that makes sense. I think that this area of the ride itself was a little bit on the emptier side, right? There's a lot of like fun little aspects to the rest of the rides that you can kind of see from the beginning, right? There's Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan. You already passed by the three little pigs' houses after you go through the whale, and then as you go through the rest of these parts, you go to Aladdin's Cat and Cinderella. This section is kind of the most bare. After that, you come into Toad Hall, and then you got the Kingdom of Arendelle, right? Frozen, Elsa, and Anna. But this was sort of like beautiful flowers, of course. But during the nighttime, it's actually kind of hard to see the colors here. During the daytime, it's absolutely gorgeous. During the nighttime, it's a little bit difficult to make out the light, the coloring, because the lighting is so dim. So adding Rapunzel's tower here, where the lights are going to really kind of light up, because of how that's the scene of the movie, I think is really going to make a big difference. A big difference to this section here, and I like it. And of course, it just goes to show that Disney is willing to innovate, is willing to create new additions to the park, and we already knew this. But this is an original attraction. Like literally Walt Disney. Like there's a picture here. Walt Disney is around when they built Storybook. This is not something that's new. This has been around for 70 years. 70 years, right? When Disneyland opened, more or less. And then, which makes sense. We are celebrating the 70th anniversary of Disneyland. But that they're willing to make some additions and changes is really neat. Disney, I was reading a little bit. Thank you for the follow, Malka. I appreciate it. About Walt Disney, and he was planning on having a sort of a miniature land that would travel by train, and then he'd show it off, these miniatures across the America. But I think that the idea of miniatures and how they could play a role into Disneyland finally settled on Storybook Land, where you can see the amazing miniatures of all these different stories via either the canal boats or Casey Jr., which is my favorite way of viewing it. But I'm a big fan of trains. So I think that's really interesting. But it's very exciting. It's very exciting that they're going to add this new addition to Disneyland here, and they're going to have two different colors of lights, two different songs. My apologies. Yeah. If you have made this, we're already 8 minutes into this video. 8 minutes into the video. If you are here, go ahead and type into the chat or in the comments. Type in Tangled into the chat, because this is the story, right? This is the story of Tangled. It makes me wonder, though, if this is possibly going to result in a longer downtime for this attraction, for both the canal boats and Casey Jr., because they need to add something new, right? Instead of just doing, pardon me, I'm gonna cough. Instead of just doing some standard maintenance, right, to make sure that everything is properly taken care of, right, and cleaned, they need to construct something new. They need to build something new. And let me just go into the engineering. About this. So I studied engineering in college. I have a degree of a mechanical engineering, a bachelor's degree, which is a little different than set design. That's probably more like civil engineering. I don't know. Mechanical engineering and civil engineering, the difference is if it's moving, it's mechanical. If it's not moving, it's civil. That's the joke we've had among ourselves as engineers. That's not quite exactly how it works, but it's pretty close. I think it's a good first order generalization. As an engineer, if I'm adding a new set piece to this attraction, there are a couple things that I want to make sure. First off, it needs to make sure that it's sturdy enough to last, right? All of these other areas of Storybook Land have to last a long time, right? Because they're going to be subjected to things like the weather, right? Disneyland doesn't is in California, so we don't have hurricanes. We do get a bit of rain, but we don't usually get snow. And even the rain we get is kind of condensed to certain areas, but it has to last. It has to last through that. So this new tower, these new additions, need to be able to survive weather. Generally rainy weather, heat during the summertime. It could get above 100 degrees. It needs to survive the fact that there's a lot of wildlife that kind of comes around here. There's usually ducks and swans, and I don't know if the wildlife is going to necessarily climb on top of a tower or land on it or sit on it. But obviously, you need to take into account, engineer, that the wildlife could potentially damage the scenery, or whatnot. You wouldn't want a duck to sit on top of Rapunzel's tower and then break off the top, right? That would be bad. That'd be bad. So that's the other things, and of course you got to make sure that the attraction looks nice, right? It reflects what we know of Tangled. It reflects the aesthetic. That the sound, the music that comes from the tower, either whichever song says "When Will My Life Begin" or "I See the Light," is something that you can hear, but isn't going to overwhelm all the other sounds and musics from the other sections. Right? Make sure that these lights here are able to be seen during the night and maybe even during the day. Right? So yeah, right. Like the effects of the sun, you're absolutely right? Because the sun makes colors fade, right? Generally, paint fades in the sunlight. At least that's what I've heard. I could be wrong, and you could correct me if I'm wrong. But you want to make sure that these things can last. And to be fair, Disney Imagineers have a ton of experience doing this, right? This ride has been around for 70 years. So they know a thing or two about how to maintain Storybook Land, what paints work, what paints don't work, what problems that they've run into the past few decades. They have notes upon notes upon notes. So making an addition to this land, I really don't think is the most complicated. It's the most complicated thing because they already know how things are and the setting and the environment, and they've also made additions before, right? Before they didn't have a ton of these things. They didn't have Arendelle, for example, but when Frozen came along and Frozen became very popular, eventually they added Arendelle, and that's a huge. I mean, look how big this addition is. It's a huge addition. It's pretty there. Yeah. Look at the cast member costume photo and the concept. Do you look different? Okay, so that's a cast member. That's a cast member. And does this cast member look different? I mean, it kind of looks the same. It kind of looks like the same cast member costume, right? Sort of a white with the green pants, and that's like a white with green pants. Looks about the same there. So I don't think it looks too different. Our concept art is always going to be concept art, right? It's not necessarily, it's going to be generally realistic, but it's not going to be a perfect rendition of what it should look like, right? It's sort of an idealized version. And then from this concept art, that's when the Imagineers can say okay, now how are we going to build it realistically? First, they're going to make they're going to make models of it in computer graphics. Of course, back in when they originally built this place, they didn't have computer models, but now I'm sure that Disney engineers use computer modeling and CAD systems to generate these things, and then they're going to start putting things together bit by bit to make it very much more probably an initial beta model, if I could say that. Something that mock-up is another word for saying that, where they could kind of say okay, this is what it's going to look like, test things out, make sure it kind of things fit together, and then they'll make an actual permanent model which they'll install into the park, and they'll take time to do that. So I do think that it's going to take a little bit of time for them to put this all together, get everything ready, and then open it up again. They say that it's going to happen in the winter time, that it's going to be joining in this winter. So for me, winter is what? December, January, February, right? Those are kind of the winter months. So I think that the downtime for Storybook and Casey Jr. is gonna go beyond October. Is gonna go into November, maybe late November, potentially is the earliest it opens, but I think it's going to be like December when we're going to see it again. And of course, I think that they wanted to open in December because they want it to be a reflection of Disneyland Resort's 70th anniversary celebration, right? Once we get into January, we're in year 71. So I think they want to try and get it in before 70. Also, Disneyland's busy time for the winter is going to be in December, because people are going to start coming in for the holidays, especially around Christmas and New Year's. People are going to want to be at Disneyland because they're off of work, they're off of school, they're on vacation, so they want to see the lights, they want to see the holiday spirit. So I think that Disney will probably want this to be open by December. And that's probably why they close early. It's good that they're pretty sure that this is going to happen, I think, soon, because they made an announcement. They made an announcement about 2 days ago. So that's going to be an interesting development that we see as time moves forward. I'm kind of curious if they're going to do anything with Rapunzel, with the Tangled franchise itself. Now, we had a TV series. As far as I know, we've never had a second movie. And now I could be wrong. But we've had a TV series, but because they are adding Tangled to the ride, I'm wondering if they're going to try and do something else. Maybe are they going to do maybe a Tangled live action? Maybe a Tangled sequel? I wouldn't mind a Tangled sequel. You'd have to figure out how that fits in with the TV series, but I think that Disney could do it. They had the Aladdin TV series. And then they had, they brought in the Aladdin movies. Sequel movies, so they could do it without making people feel like they missed out if they didn't watch the Aladdin TV series, right? They Aldoni says they suspended the Tangled remake after Snow White, so maybe they're thinking about doing it again. Maybe they're thinking of doing a remake now that they're we're out of the pandemic, and apparently Tangled is still a very popular, amazing attraction. Princess Rapunzel is one of the main princesses in the Fantasmic show that they have at Disneyland on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? They're, the main princesses are, you first see Jasmine, right? She dances in the middle. Then, of course, you have Belle, you have Ariel, and you have Rapunzel, right? And they're part of that, the main kind of core princesses that have their own section where they're dancing on these little platforms that move along the waters on Rivers of America in front of New Orleans. And of course, that's one of the most beautiful scenes. There's a few more princesses that you see on the Mark Twain afterwards, in addition to those princesses, but those are the four main princesses that you see. So clearly, Tangled is a very strong franchise in Disney's eyes. And it's possible that Disney is looking into, maybe we'll do a live action, maybe we'll have Tangled 2. And if they do, right, then this edition is perfect, because more people are going to say, oh, there's a Tangled attraction on Storybook. Let's ride Storybook, right? It'll make Storybook, it'll make Casey Jr. more popular because it has this beautiful Tangled tower. It has a beautiful Rapunzel's beautiful tower. And so I think that's maybe a possibility in the future. I don't know, but Disney's thinking about it, because Disney is constantly coordinating things, right? Its entertainment division is talking to its parks division, and of course all of that is being planned. But Disney is smart. Disney knows that if something is popular, they're going to capitalize it. That's why I've said before that the reason why, and you guys agreed with me, that the inside out emotions, joy, sadness, anxiety, are the hosts of the 70th anniversary World of Color Happiness show at California Adventure, is because Inside Out 2 did very well. Inside Out 2 did extremely well for Disney, and Inside Out was very popular, and so they said, hey, you know what? These Inside Out emotions are great. People love them. Let's have them host World of Color Happiness. right? And of course people like that because it merges together both the fact that Inside Out 2 did well, and so they're happy, they love those characters, but they also get to see those characters again in this new show. And of course that's a coordination between the entertainment division of Disney and the parks division of Disney. If they didn't coordinate right, you wouldn't get the show like that. So yeah, and there's 2 Rapunzel towers now. Aldoni's right. There's one here, and then there's also one at there at let's see, can we expand this? Oh, we got traffic. There's one right over here in this section of Fantasyland. Where am I? Is this north? This is so hard. Oh, right here in the Fantasyland, right by the theater here. No, wait, no, that's not right. Right over here. But that's pretty cool. But yeah, Rapunzel's Tower, that's very exciting there. Let me know, guys, though, if there's like any other additions of anything else you'd like to see added to Storybook Land. Obviously, I don't think Disney is going to add anything anytime soon, although who knows? Who knows? But it's very possible that maybe they'll add something else in the near future if another of their IPs does well, or if they're planning on doing something, a new remake that's good, they think is going to do well. One interesting thing that I did discover while doing research on this, and I want to mention, is that apparently, and I did not know this, but according to SFGate, if you are the first rider in the morning for Storybook Land, the Storybook Canal Boats, you get to sign the ride's guest book. There's a guest book if you're the first person to ride the canal boat. So that's really exciting. And look at all these people that have signed every day, right? We got the July 8th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, August 1st. So that's really sweet and wonderful. And I've never seen that before. I didn't even know that was a thing. But that means that there's only 365 signatures per year. I think that's really awesome. So if you happen to be the first person on Storybook, or you want to get that signature in, go ahead and do so, and take a picture in this guest book and send the picture to me, probably via Discord. I'd love to see it. And also it'd just be a neat thing. It'd just be an absolute neat thing to see. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you think they should add anything else to Storybook, if you like this change, if you are worried that it's going to mean that Casey Jr. is going to be down for a lot longer than you want. That's what I worry about. I'm really looking forward to Casey Jr. Again. It's one of my favorite rides. And I'm kind of curious on what kind of dialogue that the cast members are going to say when they row past Rapunzel, right? Are they going to make a comment about Flynn Rider's nose? That would be pretty funny, right? They're not quite as humorous as the Jungle Cruise. Jungle Cruise is all jokes, but they get a few lines in here and there that can bring out a chuckle, and it's a very sweet ride. It's a very sweet ride. It's also an original, right? Like I said, Walt Disney was involved. I personally think that Walt Disney would like these changes. He's always was changing the parks. He was always making different changes to the parks to adapt it to what's going on currently. And I think that he would approve. He would approve of where it's going. Storybook Land is going today. But who knows? Thank you guys for being here, for watching this and for this news stuff. It's really exciting. Looking forward to, we'll cover more news regarding the parks, more theories about princesses. But take care, guys. Have a good night. I love you all.